Welcome to the Pimp My Setup highlights for episode number 206. The first setup of the day was submitted by Nathan. Loves his setup, but feels like it's missing something. It could be better. Well, Nathan, if you look at the second photo, I think there's something you're definitely missing. Cable management. Can we just look at that for a second? Maybe you got to start fresh, rip all those cables down, and like start fresh. Try to even them out, make them look a little bit nicer than that. You can definitely do a lot better than that. You know, that's not the best spot for your headphones, especially, you know, I don't know how that would really stay on the desk. I feel like I'd knock into them like 24/7. So maybe getting, you know, headphone clamps going underneath the desk, that'd be nice, depending on where you want to have them. And the color scheme is all over the place. You know, you got red, you got green, you got, you know, just a bunch of different colors that you have to kind of focus on. We're not going for a Christmas theme here. We're going for, you know, a cool theme that you can use all year round. If you look above, there's a floating shelf above, has like G Fuel on it. That's not the greatest stuff to put on a floating shelf. I would add more theme. Nathan scored a 58. The next setup was submitted by tley. So, you know, he's pretty bold in the statement. He's like, yeah, I have a pretty clean setup. And it is true. He does have a very clean setup. I mean, there's really nothing outside, and mine's great, you know? You don't really have anything on your desk except for the stuff you need. The only problem is your speakers are being blocked, at least your left one. You know, you can barely even see behind that left monitor. Where would you put that left speaker?
Honestly, he would have to lay it down on its side, given his current monitor arrangement.
Yeah. That's probably the best bet. It would just look a little awkward, so maybe putting the right speaker on its side too would, you know,
you could put the secondary monitor above at an angle pointing down.
Yeah, there's really no theme. Like, he has the two stuff above. I think it's like soccer players or whatever, but they're not framed. They're ripped up. So I mean, I'll get rid of them. Maybe start a new type of theme. tley scored a 74. Next setup was submitted by Courtney. You could definitely see in that corner over there. I feel like you could easily put that power brick up against that wooden part or whatever and easily hide that. And then cable manager, try to hide it behind the leg. You can easily hide it behind your PC. From the looks of it, at least, or at least moving your PC over to kind of hide more of it. The rest of the setup, usability is fine. The desk is not really the greatest desk, but you know, you're using what you have. No theme. Once again, it comes down to just adding theme. You have like the box off to the left. I guess that's fine for, you know, for now, but maybe getting a bigger desk in the future would be nice. Courtney scored a 64. The next setup of the day was submitted by KSS. The one thing I like about the setup is the stuff in the left-hand corner. He's got like the boat and like the car and all that. I think that's super unique in that way, where it keeps that white theme, but you add a little splash of color. I like that about this setup. It's just very empty on the wall, and like, you know, with the white on white desk and like the white on white wall and all that, it kind of just feels like it should be adding something to the setup, you know, once again on the wall. That shelving up to the left that's holding the boat, you can see underneath that it has some stuff underneath there. I don't know how usable the shelves are with the leg right there. KSS scored an 86. The next setup of the day was submitted by William. The one thing I'm going to say straight off the bat is that that gaming wheel or whatever on the bottom, isn't that in the way of his feet? Like, I feel like that's just not a great spot, especially because he has that thing that comes out of his desk that can easily just have it on there, you know, whenever he wants, or just find a different spot for it. I feel like the monitors are like in a weird position, because like if you're sitting straight on with the desk, I feel like the left monitor is like too far over, and if that's the case, you need to, you know, angle that in a little bit more. If it works for you usability wise, then maybe keep it there, but I feel like you could definitely shift the monitors off to the right. Speaker is like, once again, it's shift off to the left, where I feel like the left speaker is kind of like just out of nowhere, where the right speaker is way closer to you. And maybe just adding a little more color. You got the green LEDs on the keyboard because it's Razer. I feel like adding more color, because it's black on black, it just seems like it's a little dull. So maybe adding color once again would help this setup. William scored an 82. The next setup of the day was submitted by Noah. I love how clean the monitor is. The desk works for what he's, you know, using it for, but you know, this is not like his room. I'm pretty sure it's like a living room of some sort, so he couldn't like take up the whole living room to make his setup better. Really, this setup's not really much to talk about because he moved to a different location. There's no point in talking about upgrades he can do to the setup itself in this position when he's not even at the place anymore. Noah scored a 74. The next setup of the day was submitted by David. That desk, it has seen better days, to say the least. I think, you know, if you're going to keep the desk, because I think the desk is working for you in some ways, I feel like adding some like carbon fiber wrap or repainting it in some sort, maybe some wood stain or something like that. Those cables right there. It's so easy. That wood panel right there is so easy. You can just plop them right up and just tape them back up. You wouldn't see any more. I don't think there's any other cables that are really being shown except for like the monitor cable. I like the use of the desk, like I said. I love the theme around it. I love those shelves off to the right. They're so unique with the stuff that he has, like the old cameras. But yeah, the speakers, I'm looking off to the left. The speakers seem like really high up, and like I feel like it would be better if they're, you know, angled down, but I feel like it's still picking up the same amount of sound if he were to, you know, have them on his desk. But he doesn't have the room on his desk, so he's like, I'm gonna throw them right up there.
Paint the walls over. Maybe go for like right, but at least patch up
the
crap.
David scored an 84. The next setup of the day was submitted by James. I feel like you could just easily just fix it. It's like you have the signum, but nothing's in a signum except for the, the extension cord. Like, I feel like you can easily throw those cables up there and like make it tighter. I love the hats on top. I'm a hat guy. I love how they're up there. I like how you're utilizing that for that. The canvas poster above is cool. I feel like they're supposed to be spaced out a little bit more. Yeah, I think that's like the whole scheme of it, but you have the room to space it out. It's not like you're tight on space. I feel like maybe having the speakers down there would be more, because like the speakers are really small, and having up there, I feel like they're just going right over your head. James scored an 88. The next setup of the day was submitted by Victor. The desk is very weird. It kind of fits your room that way, where it's like, right in the corner, and I guess like usability is fine in that aspect, but I feel like out of sight, out of mind maybe lost me a little bit, just because I'm looking around and there's like little things that maybe could be moved. Like, maybe if you got a mic arm, that'd be nice, maybe to go behind the monitor, coming over. LEDs would be cool in the setup, just trying to add some color to it, some more color. And that's basically it. I mean, it's a cool setup nonetheless, but yeah, the stuff on the shelf too, maybe get rid of some of the stuff on the shelf, because it seems like it's just out of place and not really necessary. Victor scored an 82. The final setup of the day was submitted by Nick. Let me just say, I love the wall. I love how cool that astronaut background is. I think it's so awesome.
Missed opportunity though. He mounts the headphones right there. Should have mounted them higher so it looks like he's holding them.
That'd be actually pretty cool. Yeah, you have one in the left. Yeah, or just have one in the left hand and then one off like underneath your desk, or maybe on that hand. That'd be pretty cool. Yeah.
I think it's terrible putting the headphones there, but that would have been a cool way to do it.
I like the desk. I think the desk looks really nice. And I feel like, it's tough to add more theme or more personality, except for being like on the desk. And I wouldn't even know what you can add that would like not draw away from, the big ass background that he has with the astronaut. Once again, I feel like this could be like, you can have a bigger monitor, or you can have just better speakers, because those speakers are so like non-existent. The desk works for now, but maybe getting a new desk to fill up more of that wall would be nice. But I like the desk. I love how it looks and all that. I think it adds like a cool factor to it.
Ooh, someone has a good idea. An old style globe on the left side.
That would be pretty cool. Yeah, or just something like that. Something like, I feel like this would need like something old or something like antique-ish to make it like
to match
more.
the desk.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, if you're not going to get rid of the desk, I think the desk is fine. So maybe adding something like that, that'd be pretty cool. Nick scored a 92 and walked away with first place. Thank you for watching the Pimp My Setup highlights for episode number 206.